welcome everyone. We are super excited to see you here today. I know this is a topic that's often, there, people know it exists, but we've never sort of had a session that's just specifically dedicated to this. So I'm very excited to have something for applicants, for counselors, for parents, and anybody else who may be joining us in the room. My name is Irina. I'm an associate director of admissions at Hunter College now. And the cool thing with me is that I'm probably not going to be talking too much. I'm going over housekeeping items today. So essentially what we are covering with you today is going to be everything you need to know about sort of the DreamUS program and just general admission to Hunter and how to navigate that whole process. So the first part of the session will cover sort of Hunter, what we are, what we do, how we do it, and how we help our students in a big picture of things, right? So like a very general overview. If you have more questions about the admissions process afterwards, we're gonna give you information how to find all that info. So the first portion is gonna sort of cover everything in a very generic form. We are then going to dedicate a good chunk of our time to cover specifically the DreamUS program and how it works at Hunter. While the program is national, we have a phenomenal team who's here with us, who takes care of the students with the program, who helps undocumented students at Hunter, and just in general support students who may need that type of support. They are absolutely phenomenal, which is why they get the bulk of the time of this webinar, okay? And then we will also open up the room for a little Q&A session. So if you have any questions, there's a little Q&A button on the bottom of your screen, or side, wherever your Zoom tells you it is. Put the questions that you may have, anything that comes up through the presentation that's not clear, put them in there. We will definitely try to get through as many as possible. And the best part about all of this, if we do not get through all the questions, at the end of the session, we're going to give you information how to sign up for updates, and we will send you all of our contact information afterwards, so you do not have to worry about writing sort of anything down. We will have your contact info, we will contact you. So hopefully that makes sense. One last housekeeping item is we are in webinar mode. So what that means is you're not on camera, you're not on audio with us. We are recording this session, and we will be, the recordings will be available afterwards as well. So again, at the end, if you share your contact information, we'll be able to share the recording with you. But ultimately, because it's webinar, that Q&A button is very important. So make sure you utilize that throughout the session. Again, if you have any questions, we will help students too. Go ahead and ask them. So we're very excited that you're here. Let's get cracking, and I would love to introduce you guys to Jarvis, who is a member of our admissions team. Jarvis, they're all yours.
Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to Hunter College. My name is Jarvis. If you've seen the Avengers, you can also call me Vision. So I am also, in addition to being a Hunter alum, part of the admissions team here. So I'll talk to you really quickly about the college. We'll start off with academics. So we offer a ton of different programs at Hunter College, over 70 majors and minors. And so the cool thing is we also offer graduate level programs as well as accelerated programs along with that. So that means if you really wanted to, you could go for your bachelor's degree and your master's degree and put them together in one fell swoop, which is pretty cool. In addition to that, in my case, I actually triple minored at Hunter. So I had math, physics, and sociology put together with S3 minors along with my major in chemistry. So you could definitely put together any combination of subjects that you want, which is pretty cool. All right. In addition to that, we have a good amount of housing here in New York City. So we're located right in the heart of Midtown Manhattan, and we have multiple housing locations near that. And so we house close to about 1,000 students. So the one thing to keep in mind is a small percentage of our student population. So you want to make sure when you do apply that you apply early. That way you can apply for housing early because it is on a first come, first served basis. Moving on to student life, probably my most favorite thing about the college. We have over 100 clubs and organizations here, each with their own specific aim, ranging from social, political, sexual orientation, hobbies, interests, academics, and even a couple of random clubs at the college. For example, we have a ham and cheese club at Hunter, which is pretty cool when you think about it. If there's something that we don't have, you're more than welcome to start your own. I was actually one of the founding fathers of our video game club at the college. So If you want to play Super Smash Brothers, you don't want this work. In addition to that, we definitely offer good amount of teams, sports teams here at Hunter, 18 teams, so 9 for men, 9 for women. And so for most of them, it's pretty easy to join. Probably just needs to do a tryout or two, and that's pretty much it. To reach out to the athletics, just head to the athletics section of our website, really, and that's pretty much it. Along with that, we have 4 publications here at Hunter. One of them is actually a comic book series, which is pretty cool. And all of these are done by the students for the students. So there's no shortage of creativity there. And last but not least, on our main campus, we actually have our very own radio station there as well. And it's a great way for students to get involved in the community, which is pretty cool. And then last but not least, there's a ton of student support available to students at Hunter, Career Development Services, the Reading and Writing Center, academic advising, and honestly, last but not least, we have our very own DreamUS team right here, consisting of Chris and Camilla.
Great, Jarvis. Thank you so much. So I'm just going to go ahead and get a head start on kind of the DreamUS overview. First off, hi everyone. My name is Camila Puerta Hincapié. I am the assistant program coordinator for the DreamUS program at Hunter College. I co-manage the program with Chris. I've been working now with Chris for a little over a year now. I was a student at Hunter College. I graduated in the spring of 2020, and I was also a DreamUS scholar while I attended Hunter. So I've definitely had the advantage of seeing the program from 2 perspectives. So it's really nice to, be here today and share this information with you all. To start off, I think it's good to kind of do an overview of what are the perks of the program here at Hunter College specifically. And so I'll start off with kind of what the finances are for the scholarship. It is up to $16,500 for an associate's degree, and it is $33,000 for a bachelor's degree. And it is up to $4,000 in additional stipends and about $1,000 per year for book supplies and transportation. So it's important to keep in mind that this is usually enough to cover your entire undergrad degree within CUNY. And again, you'll definitely be able to refer back to this information on their website itself. And then aside from the finances of the scholarship, you'll also have access to Chris and myself. I think that's really important when you're entering a school and you kind of maybe feel a little lost. It's good to have some people that that you can refer to, that will help guide you through the process. So just make sure you see our faces, who we are. We'll be your point people to help you through the process and kind of help you move through everything effectively and without any issues. You'll also get priority registration, which is really great, as long as you keep in check when priority registration opens. That definitely comes to benefit you a lot, to make sure that you get the courses that you need, to make sure that you complete your major. And then it helps you make sure that you stay on track, and eventually when you meet with us, it's also easier for us to help you as well. A part of what makes the scholarship unique at Hunter is that we also create workshops specifically for you, depending on what level you are, the amount of credits that you have. We cater workshops specifically, whether you are in the process of writing a resume or interviewing, or you're in your 4th year and you're applying to grad school. We also do alumni panels, and that is definitely really helpful if you've gotten the chance to make a connection with someone who maybe already graduated and they get to come back and share their stories and what their process has been. And so there is a system that we've helped create within the program that kind of helps the students rely on each other. And that's also a huge perk of the program itself, is that you also have a community where you can rely on each other and other students who are already maybe like more advanced in the program, and you can always ask for advice or kind of ask what their process has been. And I think especially when you're doing like hybrid classes and you're doing remote work and you're also maybe going in, I think the community foundation is kind of the most important and the thing that will help you a lot in the program itself. And I think that now we can move on to the next slide.
Hey guys, my name is Chris Aviles. I work closely with Camila, who is amazing. Was a superstar student and is now a superstar member of our team here with the DreamUS program and some other scholarship programs that we also manage. But today we're going to talk specifically about the DreamUS. I've been working in CUNY for about 20 years now, and specifically at Hunter for around 6 or 7. Directly working with undocumented student populations and the DreamUS Scholarship here at Hunter. So as Camila said, you know, one of the greatest perks is that you have 2 people here when you are a scholar in this program that you can always sort of refer to, right? So as we're transitioning into new adventures and new environments and trying to figure things out, it's really helpful to be able to have a point person to connect with in order to help you navigate the process throughout your college careers. So diving into the scholarship program now. So again, this is the DreamUS Scholarship. As Irina mentioned before, this is a national scholarship. It is also CUNY-wide at this point. So it is in every CUNY school that has an undergraduate degree program. You are eligible to take this scholarship with you to any of the CUNY schools that you attend. So obviously there's no bias. I'm gonna say Hunter is the best, and we have the best DreamUS Scholarship program. But in case you do want to apply for this scholarship program and for whatever reason do not end up coming here, I think it's a good thing to know that wherever else you go in the CUNY system, if you receive the scholarship, you will be able to take it with you. And that's from beginning to end, right? Even if you start here at Hunter with the scholarship and at some point want to transfer over somewhere else, you will be able to take the scholarship with you, again, as long as it's in the CUNY system. Students who are eligible to apply are students who are coming in from high school and students who are graduating from any other community college and are now looking to come into a a bachelor's program. If you are already in a bachelor's program, unfortunately, that does make you ineligible to be able to apply and receive this scholarship program. That is a direct rule and guideline for the scholarship program. So there's nothing that we can do as Hunter that will be able to mitigate that or make any modifications to that. The application is currently open, guys. You guys can go to the DreamUS, follow the prompts for applying for the scholarship program, and you can do so until February 28th, 2022. So while that seems like it might be well in advance, my major recommendation right now is if you are really interested in doing this scholarship program, go onto the website now if you haven't done so already and start the application process. The application itself is usually pretty straightforward. There might be 1 or 2 or questions that may require a little bit more clarification. And we are actually looking at maybe doing a second session to looking at the application a little bit closer in this kind of format. But what takes the most time is those essays. There are 2 essays that you have to do for the application, and that is what needs to sort of be clean and crisp and concise. I can't stress enough how important it is that those essays are tip-top shape. You know, your grades are your grades, guys. If you're graduating this semester, whatever you've done in the last 4 years, it's on your transcript, and that is what it is, right? So what you can sort of modify right now, how you can make a difference right now, is making sure that they see who you are as a person, and what is it that you want to do in your career, in society. What is your place? How can they be an invest in your future and in the future of our society from you making a difference, right? So you really, really need to focus on those applications. Make sure that you are working with someone, maybe a college counselor or a teacher, and getting that feedback from them and revising them and making sure that they are in pristine condition before you submit. So that's why, again, even though the deadline is February 28th, I would strongly recommend that you start that process now so that you've gone through a couple of revisions before you submit your actual application. Can we move on to the next slide? All right, perfect. So as I say that, right, I want to talk a little bit more about who is eligible to apply, right? So initially when the scholarship started, it was specifically for DACA and TPS students. That was the earmark for this specific scholarship. As time has continued and as legislation still has not sort of caught up with where we are seeing that the criteria for DACA is a little bit outdated. And therefore, a lot of the students who are in this college transition period may actually not have DACA. So if you look at the application itself, they've made some modifications in which you don't necessarily need to have DACA or TPS at this point. But if you fit the criteria that they've put up forth in terms of somewhat being eligible for DACA, even if you weren't in the country by 2016, there is some wiggle room there for you to still apply. So what this has meant in the last few years is that the students that Camila and I are working with right now, a lot of them are completely out of status. So I want to reiterate that to you guys super, super hard. You do not need to have DACA or TPS or be a citizen to go to college. There is no citizenship requirement for CUNY. And there is, again, some wiggle room here, even if you don't have DACA and are completely out of status, to be able to get financial aid through the scholarship and through TAP, which we'll talk a little bit about later on. But again, I want to stress for anyone who is having doubts about applying for college because you think you can't afford it or because you think that your citizenship status is going to impede you from doing so, that is false. And anyone who wants to have a further conversation about that, you'll have all our information at the end. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm definitely willing, we are willing to talk to counselors and students about their individual situations and walk through that process. So again, as long as you have come here before the age of 16, you have to have graduated from a high school or GED program in New York State. You've also had to have attended that high school for at least 2 years. That is actually the state requirement for to make you eligible for in-state tuition. And in order to get this scholarship, you have to qualify for in-state tuition, which is why those two criteria match up. So as long as you, again, have attended a New York State high school for at least 2 years and graduated from that high school, or completed a GED program that is New York State based, you will qualify for in-state tuition, and you will meet that requirement for the scholarship program. For my high school students, you need at least a 2.5 weighted GPA on a 4-point scale. For students who may be coming in as community college graduates, that is a 3.0 GPA that is required. The scholarship does require, again, for students to be in state, and this is a full-time student scholarship. So they do require that students plan on attending school on a full-time basis, which translates to 12 credits every semester. I know some of you may not be sort of familiar with the credit process. 12 credits is usually about 4 classes per semester in order to qualify for that full-time status. Again, as we sort of talked about the in-state tuition process, a little bit separate from the actual DreamUS Scholarship program, but something that I think it's important for you guys to know, whether you come to Hunter or whether you go to another CUNY schools. Again, if you meet that criteria, you qualify for in-state tuition. However, as you start school, for sure, when you start Hunter, you will be provided a residency form. I want to, again, stress this a lot to you guys. The residency form is only to identify that you qualify for in-state tuition. It has nothing to do with citizenship or permanent residency. I can't tell you how many students Camila and I meet with every semester who see the residency form and think it's about citizenship and then shut down and don't do the form because they don't have citizenship, because they're not, they don't have residency. The backside to that is if you don't complete the form, there's a very good chance that you will be flipped to out-of-state status. Out-of-state means you will be charged out-of-state tuition, which is roughly twice the cost of in-state tuition. And for many of our students is a deal breaker and will disqualify them from being able to attend to school because they won't be able to afford the cost. It's roughly, don't quote me on this, but it's roughly somewhere between $7,000 and $8,000 per semester. And so when you see the form, please complete it. Again, as long as you meet the criteria, which I mentioned before, the form will process, you'll be classified as in-state, and you will not have any issues paying the in-state tuition cost or complications with that process. Other pieces of the scholarship program is, as Camila was sort of mentioning before, you have someone here that is willing to walk you through the process, but you also have other students who are also going through the process. And we're gonna wait a few minutes because we have one of our alumni who's gonna be coming in and talking about his experience. But that is sort of the beauty of the program as well, is that you can also speak to another student who is going through the program, may have similar goals that you have, but also has a similar background that you have, right? May have a lot of the same issues that you have regarding immigration and getting access to specific resources. And I can talk to you guys and sort of explain it. There's nothing like having someone who has been in your shoes and has sort of walked through that process, being undocumented, being DACA, to be able to look at you and talk to you and say, you know what, I went through that process. This is how I went about it. This is what was difficult about that process for me. And being able to get some of that advice and incorporating it in your own goals and the way you go about your own process. You know, right now I have a group of young women who are in the computer science major, and the oldest one is about to graduate this semester, and I'm trying to get them connected to have a little sub community of scholars within the program who are also young women, right? So there's so many levels there, right? Of being young women going into a male dominated field, being undocumented, you know, coming in through this era of what they can be doing for internships and hackathons and all this other stuff that comes into going through this process, that it's so much better when they can have those conversations together and maybe even get some of that advice from those older students who are much further along the process and are able to give them that advice of what they've done and what has been successful and maybe what to stay away from, right? Certain conversations that may be difficult to have and how to go about that. So I think that is definitely, again, that community aspect of it is definitely a big part of this program, which is nice also with the $30,000 that come along with paying your tuition so that you don't have to worry about covering your tuition costs. I don't know if Anthony is here just yet, Irina, so I don't know, should I just continue to ramble on? Should we take maybe a couple of questions from what we've talked about so far?
Yeah, I actually didn't want to interrupt you. You started going through the community. So students, somebody, I don't know if it's students, maybe a high school counselor, are asking if do you, once you're selected for the program, do you need to reapply every year? Is there something you need to maintain? How does that whole thing work?
Perfect, great question. So once you are accepted into the program, there is a renewal process. It's an annual renewal process. The renewal is always at the end of the spring semester, so somewhere around May of every year. The DreamUS manages that process themselves. So when we talk about the scholarship, it's very important to look at it as a partnership. So there's pieces of the scholarship that the scholarship organization will manage themselves, and the renewal process is one of those pieces. So students will be communicated directly through the DreamUS and will need to provide things like their transcripts and things of that nature to make sure that they are continuing to meet the criteria for the scholarship program, which is basically a 3.0 GPA, that they have not changed their citizenship status, right? That they have not become a permanent citizen or a citizen, and that they continue to attend school full time. And so that is in general the process. The DreamUS does reach out to the students, but I don't know if I should curse, I'm a huge pain in the ass when it comes to my students. So they also get reminders from me because I don't want them to miss the renewal process and then have complications in continuing to receive their awards. For the most part, every time they renew, as long as they're making the criteria, they are continuing to be kept in the program.
Awesome. Chris, there are a few questions about eligibility, and since we're on the slide, a counselor, I think it's a counselor, is asking if a student came to the country after the 2016 date, but before they were 16 years old, is that automatically ineligible because they came after?
Yes, unfortunately, yes. And you know, they should really look at the DreamUS website, because I know DACA has its own date of, I believe it's 2016 or something like that. And the DreamUS has amended that again, because we are seeing a lot of students in the most recent years that don't meet that date. But they are very stringent on the date, so you do have to be there. And as part of the application process, students actually have to submit an affidavit saying that they meet those conditions.
Yeah, it sounds like that could be something that prevents a lot of students, right? The different timelines. A few more students are asking, what if they don't qualify based on this date or age or whatever it may be, one of these criteria? Are there any other resources available for this sort of undocumented population?
Sure. Great question. I think that will lead us into the Jose Peralta DREAM Act component. So a couple of things. One, in general, so again, this is no matter what CUNY school you attend, but hopefully you come here to Hunter because we're awesome. But the New York State Senate has recently, I want to say recently within the last 3 years, passed the New York State DREAM Act, which allows students who are undocumented to now receive TAP, which is state financial aid. Unfortunately, this has not passed at the federal level. So students, this population of students is still unable to receive FAFSA, which is the federal financial aid. The regular TAP application actually requires students to complete a FAFSA or else it won't process. So in order for our undocumented students to get access to TAP, they need to complete the Jose Peralta DREAM Act application. That website was created as a circumvention of the TAP website, which still has not been modified to now take undocumented student applications. So this was their workaround, is they just created an additional website. Important to note on that, there are 2 applications on that website that the students should complete. One is the regular DREAM Act application, which is more of an eligibility application, which says, yes, this is where I should be applying for TAP and not the regular TAP website. And then there is the TAP application on that same website, which allows students to actually get funding from TAP. There's really a large range between, I've seen everything from $200 to $2,000 per semester, which could be a considerable lump sum of covering a student's full-time, tuition costs any particular semester. Unfortunately, because there's a formula with the state and the way the students answer the questions on the applications regarding household size, income, and all those other relevant matters, I can't give you a really good sense of how much money students will be able to receive there. But students should just submit the application and will be able to hear back from the state in terms of receiving additional funding to help cover tuition. In addition to that, if I have a minute, yeah. Specific to Hunter, we weren't going to talk about this scholarship program because we were trying to focus more on the Dream.us because the application deadline is coming up. Camila and I also run a separate scholarship program called the Grow Scholarship Program, which has a wider range of the student population. It accepts students who are first or second generation citizens here in the country, all the way up to students who are also completely undocumented. And we basically mix the 2 sets of students because the groups and populations are the same. So academic-wise and programmatic-wise, they are doing the same work. The only difference is really the funding of the money, of where the money comes from, where that pays for their tuition. That is specific to Hunter. It is a very limited program. We have just a number of seats that we can offer every semester. So that we don't normally have a unified application process. However, whenever we do have seats, we email the general student population here at Hunter, letting them know that this is available for them and that they can apply for this additional scholarship funding.
Awesome, Chris. I see a lot of students are sort of asking a lot about different things. And I want to reiterate, the Grove Scholars program is for students sort of once it's Hunter specific. So you wouldn't find that on the Dream website, you know, tab website, wherever you may be looking. That is Hunter specific, and that sort of happens once you are at Hunter. So your first goal is to apply to Hunter and be admitted, right? And then we can figure out the Grove Scholarship and how that application works and all that. It's not something you can apply to while you're applying to the college. So that's something to keep in mind. Somebody's asking to clarify, if a student needs to submit to do the DREAM Act to access the TAP for New York State, right? If they don't qualify for the DREAM Act, does that mean they cannot qualify for the TAP in New York State?
So the applications are connected, right? So basically the DREAM Act application is just a significance that you can apply for TAP. So they're not separate funding. The funding only comes from TAP. The DREAM Act application just says, yes, you can apply for TAP through this avenue, through this website, instead of the regular TAP website, which is why you have to do both.
So if DREAM Act, the eligibility survey told them that they're not eligible for it, that means they will not be eligible.
Correct.
For TAP. Okay, cool.
Right.
I hope that clarifies for whoever's listening. And
yeah, I'm sorry, I rambled so much. I'm sorry.
No, totally fine. A few students are also asking, are there scholar programs, honor programs, and things like that that undocumented students can be sort of interested in or can apply for at Hunter? Do you want me to, you want to start? You want me to do it?
Yeah, why don't you talk? Yeah, you can chime in if you want. Yeah.
So for those of you, we work on the admission site, so I think this is kind of easier for us to cover. Hunter offers a few scholar programs that are Hunter specific, and they are often open to undocumented students to partake in activities and partake in all the scholar programs and all the seminars and all that good stuff. So there are 6 scholar programs at Hunter for freshmen. If you're a freshman, if you're in high school right now and you're applying to Hunter, your first step is to apply for admission. Like Chris said, we do not look at students' citizenship status, visa status, no status, whatever status you may have when we review students for admission to Hunter. So you want to apply, you want to make sure you send all that information in, your transcripts, everything that's needed. And then about 72 hours afterwards, we have an actual scholar application on Hunter website. There are 6 different programs and they're interest-based. So for example, there's one for computer science students, there's one for students who are interested in law and public policy. There's one for students who are interested in more medical field and doing like research or doing pre-med type of stuff. There's one for students with interest in the arts, visual or performing arts. So there's a bunch of different options for you to select from. Again, don't wait, right? You can only submit the scholar application 2 days after you apply to Hunter. So you want to make sure that that Hunter application on CUNY website with Hunter on it is submitted sooner rather than later. So that way you can apply to the freshman scholar programs afterwards. Chris, you want to add something?
Yeah. So, and I'm sorry, I had to take a pause because I was texting Anthony to see where he was at. So I don't know if you mentioned it. Sometimes depending on where this funding is coming from, undocumented students are eligible to be a part of the program and sort of benefit from all of the networking and everything else, some of the more programming pieces of it, but sometimes they're not eligible to receive the financial components that come with those scholarship programs. And that's okay, right? Like a lot of these programs have a lot of great opportunities and networks that you should participate in, even if you don't get the financial part, part of the scholarship program, because it's just going to open up opportunities for you for internships, for networks, and for just other opportunities that you will be able to take advantage of. You can apply for multiple things as well. So you can be a Yallo scholar and you can be a DreamUS scholar. And you can get money from the DreamUS and get all the benefits of networking and everything else from the Yallo scholarship program. So there's no deterrence from double dipping, so to speak. You can reap the benefits from multiple programs. That is totally fine. So as Irina said, if you see something that you're interested in and you want to apply to, apply to as many things as possible, because hopefully if you're not able to get the benefits, some of the benefits from one program, you'll be able to get it from the other.
Perfect. Chris, I see a few students are asking on the download. They're saying, you know, we've been worried about applying for external scholarships, sharing information, sharing their undocumented. Maybe even Camila's been through this, right? How do you maneuver through that? Is there something you would recommend for these students or counselors who are advising students who are a little worried?
Yeah, I think I'll kind of tackle this more through a student perspective, and then maybe Chris can kind of give a different view to this. But I think it really comes down to your comfort, you know, but be open-minded enough to know that, you know, the times have changed a little bit more. There are more programs available to you. Regardless of what your status is, there is a community of people who have probably gone through the same experiences as you. So if these programs exist, if you verify, if you can get in touch with the people who are in charge and you know that it's something real, don't hold yourself back from applying to these things, regardless of what your status is. I think a lot of times the fear of putting your status out there plays a huge role in the opportunities that maybe are coming your way. And so I think as long as you're putting in the work to verify that everything's real, if you can get in touch with people to confirm, if you can, you know, make sure to hone in on your skills and everything that you have to offer, it definitely supersedes a little bit of the fear that you have.
Awesome. Thanks, Camila.
Yeah. Just to add on to what Camila said, it can be a daunting experience for students to like look for scholarships on, you know, in Google and just like Google scholarships, knowing that you know, they have a particular background that could sort of complicate things like this. One website that we really work with a lot is Immigrants Rising. Immigrants Rising is a nonprofit organization that works a lot with this population across the country. They have a very good website, and one of the things that they produce every year, they revise it every year, is basically a guidebook of different scholarship programs across the country that do not require citizenship status. So you can go onto their website right now and just look for the guide. Going into it that way is a little bit, I think it's a little bit easier because you already know off the back that citizenship is not going to be a factor in your application process, and that these scholarship programs have already been vetted for their legitimacy. You know that they've already been vetted, that they're actual real scholarships and not someone just posting something that's fake. So that will be a great way for me, for you know, that I advise students in applying for other scholarship programs.
I think just the ultimate bottom line of all of this is put yourself out there, right? The citizenship status is certainly important for some scholarships, but then there's a lot more of them that do not care. Apply, especially if you're doing well academically. There are programs, they're looking for diversity, looking for students from all types of backgrounds. Apply. Honestly, coming from an admissions perspective, apply for whatever you can. Even if you're applying to 100 scholarships, if only 3 of them pay you even $500 each, that's $1,500 that you wouldn't have had otherwise. So just apply. That's my personal advice, right? The bottom line of all of this. I see Anthony just joined us, which is awesome. Anthony, we would love to welcome you. Thank you so much for joining us. We want to get sort of a recent alumni experience. I know Camila is an alumni too, but if you want to talk a little bit about your experience in the program, what it has benefited you, what did you find most useful about the program, and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a little bit of context. These are students who are going to be applying to the DreamUS program, right? Or
we're hoping they could be high school counselors, they could be supporters, parents, moms, dads. We're welcome to everyone today.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I guess I would just like to start that by saying that this scholarship literally it changed everything that I could have possibly had planned for. When I was applying, like you guys, I was very scared because I knew that coming along, that I wouldn't be eligible for a lot of like federal financial aid, right? Like FAFSA. So I knew that applying to private scholarships was going to be the only way, or taking out loans. And I just happened to stumble upon Dream.us, and I applied. I honestly wasn't expecting in getting a positive response, but I got it, and it changed everything. Like I mentioned, a little bit about me. So I was a pre-med student at Hunter College. I majored in human biology with a focus in chemistry. I ultimately want to go to medical school. Right now, I am doing cancer research at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center out in New York City. But yeah, for the Dream.us scholarship, why did I choose Hunter? Because one of the cool things about the Dream.us is that there's partner colleges, right, attached to the scholarship, and so you can choose the institution that you wish to go to. So I was personally debating between City College and Hunter College, but I visited Hunter College, and funny enough, I happened to stumble upon Chris. I had no idea that Chris was the advisor for the scholarship, and I found out till much later on, which was amazing. But yeah, I looked at the pre-med program that they had. So one of the things that I would recommend is that if you know what you want to study, look and see if the institutions that you're considering have that program. So I knew I wanted to do medical school, so I looked at the pre-med program, for instance. And going to Hunter with the Dream.us scholarship was a game changer because it sort of it provided me with sort of individual counseling, right? So you get to meet with Chris throughout the semester to just you know, check up on you and make sure that you're on the right track to graduating, and that that if you need any advice or you have any questions or you may be struggling with anything, that he's the person to go to. So it's very nice that you get that one-on-one counseling, and this is specific for Hunter College, by the way. I don't know if other institutions do this, but for Hunter, you get this individual counseling with Chris, which is absolutely phenomenal. In addition to that, you also get priority registration, which is a huge deal if you go to Hunter, because you find out that, especially for me as a pre-med student, like a lot of these science courses, like they are like they get to full capacity very quickly. So having priority registration really helped me in choosing my schedule, which is a big deal. And you'll see once you guys are in college how important it is to be able to sign up to for courses earlier on. Another reason why I chose Hunter is the location, right? So like Hunter is literally at the heart of New York City, and there's so many amazing institutions around here, medical schools and hospitals. And I figure that coming here will be amazing because there's like numerous internships and potential opportunities and mentorship and mentors that you can find out here in New York City. So yeah, I don't know if you guys have any other questions for me, but that's a little bit about me and sort of where I'm at and what I want to do.
Awesome. Anthony, if you have a minute for a few questions, we have a student that's asking, they're also on the pre-med track, and they haven't filled out the Dream.us and all that good stuff yet. Obviously, they're still in the process. We're talking to applicants here, but they're asking, how are you hoping to do graduate school or master's? How are you going to finance that?
That's a great question. So a few things, right? The Dream.us, I know that they were planning on having some kind of like loan program. I don't know where they are in the stages of that or if it's actually been approved. So that's like a potential avenue that could potentially be an option for me in the future. Another is just taking out loans. There are private loans out there. So potentially just loans, or this is sort of like the one that's a little bit more tougher to do, but doing well academically and like having a strong application. Sometimes medical schools, when they see applicants who may be international or undocumented, when they see that they are very compelling and they have a strong application and they want you, then they will pay for your tuition. So doing well in school. But other than that, taking out loans. And yeah, I mean, honestly, guys, like if whatever you guys want to do, just do it. I know this sounds sort of like it's like the Nike logo, just do it. But honestly, like, just do it, because there's always going to be so many reasons why not to do something. Like as a like being in your shoes, I remember when I was in high school, it felt super daunting to think that I wanted to be a physician and I was undocumented. I was like, how am I going to pay for college? How am I going to pay for medical school? My parents can't afford this. Like there were so many thoughts in my head, right? So, and at the end I was like, you know what? Like there's always going to be reasons why not to do something. But just go for it. You never know what happens. And I'm a big believer that hard work always pays off. So stay focused. And when the time comes for you to apply to medical school, doors will open up and you will find a way to get there.
Or any other graduate school or education, you know, whatever you guys want to be.
Or master's. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Awesome, Anthony, thank you so much. That pretty much concludes all the questions. We were able to get through all of them. I will say to the students who are listening, we promise we will give you a way to contact us. If you see on the screen, you can QR code it, you can go to the link. It's going to ask you for some basic contact information, and that's for us to send you this webinar and send you our contact information. So if you fill that out literally within the next 48 hours, I want to say 24 to 48 tops, you will hear something from us. You'll get contact information for me, for Chris, for admissions. Probably not Anthony. We're going to keep him out. He's busy. But you know, the rest of us, we're totally excited to hear from you. We're happy to help you students. If we have any high school counselors on tap today, super excited to see your students. If you guys need help with the application process or anything along those lines, definitely make sure you reach out. And we kind of did this webinar early enough, right, to give like a month and a half to some students who may have not been considering applying because they're worried about things. Just give them a chance to hear and listen and figure out that they can apply and they should absolutely apply for whatever is out there, including the DreamUS program, right? Chris, what would you give as an advice for a high school counselor who's working with undocumented students?
So one of the things that I would, you know, and I've had these conversations with high school counselors before. One thing is just to make sure that students know that they can go to college, right? That these resources do exist for them on a sort of professional level. Just inform yourselves of all of the different opportunities. Like go on to the Immigrants Rising website. Get as much information there that you can, look at those scholarships, provide that to your students, know the ins and outs of them, and just really become familiar with the terminology. I think a lot that goes a long way when students feel comfortable that you know their language and they talk to you and they say, I have DACA, and you can respond to them and tell them, oh, I know what that is, and you know, and sort of like have a conversation with them. I've had many students who have in the past have told me like, I don't feel comfortable talking to this person because I told them I had DACA and they asked me what that is. And so that usually can sort of create a divide and a barrier between you and your students. So inform yourselves as much as possible. Call me, email me. I will talk to you. Camila will talk to you. We will give you all the information we have, and creating these partnerships for to make sure these students have the opportunities that they deserve.
Awesome, thank you, Chris. I'm going to jump to Anthony. Anthony, what would be your advice to a high schooler who's applying to colleges now? I know you kind of already said some things, but one advice that you would give.
Just apply, guys. Apply, don't be afraid. You never know what the future holds. And inform yourself. I guess that's one of the big things, right? Just go out there and inform yourself. It's one of the most important things to know what's out there, because there are people who want to help, and there are programs that are out there to help students like us. So yeah, awesome. Stay positive.
Thank you. And last but not least, Camila, what would you give? Camila is like the go-to person for the actual scholarship for me, right? Like she read the fine print on all the pages. So Camila, what would be your advice for a student who's filling out the DreamUS application, for example?
If you're filling out the application, I think there's sometimes a lot of fear of who to reach out to or who's gonna, read my work in the application. I think there's a lot of fear of having someone just give your application a second look, review what you're writing and everything. And I can't stress it enough. Your essay is that like picture of who you are, and that is your chance to describe what you bring to the table beyond just what we see or what the DreamUS Scholarship Program sees on paper. And so emailing a teacher or connecting with us saying, hey, I need help with this part, what does this mean? Asking for clarity is your best shot at making sure that you're doing your best in the application, and just not being afraid to reach out to someone for help, which I know sometimes can be really, really hard.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I will do a shameless plug here as my advice. We are hosting another webinar that will be diving a little more in detail for the actual application about a week and a half before the application is due. So if I have any students here who are applying now and may need some assistance, look out for emails. We're going to be sending out that info soon. If you would like to get that email, you want to make sure you don't miss it again. The screen right now is showing you how to get that, to make sure we have your email address to give you the info. And then for the high school counselors, if I have any counselors in the room, make sure to tell students, you're welcome to share the link that you see on the screen right now too. If they're looking for resources, we're happy to share that with them. So please share the information so that way we can contact them and get their ball rolling. So once again, thank you. Thank you, Chris, Camila, Jarvis, Anthony. Super appreciate all of you taking an hour of your life. Thank you for all the students and all the counselors who join us. And we hope that this was informative. So see you guys at Hunter in the future. Bye, everyone.
Bye.